Hello?
Hello. Coming through all right?
You're pretty quiet.
Any better?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay. Well, I first want to compliment the previous caller, or I did until he kept rambling. Uh, as
That was
somebody
my
who's been
fault.
waiting, well, I don't know. I think we all have some responsibility for our own. Uh, I think it was his fault.
Okay.
As somebody who's been waiting in line for hours
Now
to
you're
get the
stretching
chance.
your legs. It's like you're waiting for the bathroom and for two
It's
hours and you finally
exactly
get there and now
your
now you're in the stall and you're like,
your
"Oh,
lobby. Your lobby is
yeah."
like a yellow, dimly lit cigarette lounge that
Yeah.
I've been suffocating in. So
Baby's
I
one more
like the
time.
fact that he had well prepared points. So I've got a few of my own.
Okay.
First thing I have to ask you, how much of Jordan Peterson, his videos, I guess, have you watched? How many hours?
Probably 5 hours.
Okay. The reason I bring that up is Glink. Um, I don't know if you were able to pick up on this, but Glink has watched enough Jordan Peterson to have been heavily influenced by him, and he is regurgitating those ideas as if they were his own. And the last caller sort of he framed it as he's young and hasn't really hashed out what his opinions are on those things, and that's a fair way to say it too. But I bring up I bring up this fact because I think if you're going to continue speaking to impressionable young men, Peterson is pretty relevant. I've watched a lot of his stuff, and I have a pretty favorable opinion of him. Um, so that's a recommendation, maybe a piece of criticism. Um, the reason I originally came on here was in your AMA on Destiny subreddit. I asked you a question and you skipped over it. So I want to know why you skipped over it. All right.
Whoa.
Now it's
I
not
answered almost every question. I only skipped like 2 questions.
okay, then you might know what it is already, but it's
I
not
don't.
I
I
don't think
don't. But I
too
remember. I remember thinking a couple times, like, I'm not gonna fucking answer that.
okay. Well, here's paraphrase the question. And I'll leave in the part that I suspect you didn't like because I want your reaction.
Okay.
I said uh the the times I've heard you bring up IQ, you seem suspiciously undereducated on it for somebody with
Yeah.
your background in psychology. So I'm curious. I guess first of all, why? Well, I think my question was: are you skeptical of its validity, and have you been avoiding learning about it intentionally? So those are my two questions. My first question is, why did you skip over it? And then I suppose if you want to answer either of those, I'd like to hear.
Um, the topic of IQ seems to be very attractive to race realists. That is, people who want to connect um, loose correlations between IQ and race that they perceive. They think they're loose correlations, and then use that to sort of explain away society's ills, racism, or argue against
Okay, you don't have
attempts.
to
Argue,
explain the
argue.
race realism.
I want to.
I get it.
Okay, but I want to. I do want to explain it. Argue against ways to try to combat inequality between races. And so every single time IQ has been brought up in a conversation with me, that seems to be the context. I don't think anybody's ever brought up IQ outside of talking about race.
Okay,
Is that
that's
is
fair.
that? Do you
Yeah.
think that's true?
I honestly have not heard other people. I've heard you mention that people want you to confront race realism. Like I think you were talking to Brittany about that.
But have you heard me talk about IQ or engage or dodge talking about IQ in a context that was not about race?
I have not heard you actually be asked to talk about it or offer up anything on it. So,
So why are you
but
saying
I've
why are you saying I'm suspiciously uneducated about IQ?
because what you said to Brittany, and I'm considering this like a meta conversation about you commenting on IQ. You weren't
Okay.
really talking about it.
Okay.
You said something like, um, you said I think something like I don't really know if I believe in IQ, and then you said that you give a bunch of people a test and whatever white people do the best on, you call that IQ. And that was just, and even Destiny reacted to that video, and at that point he paused it and he was like, all right, whatever anybody says, IQ is pretty fucking real. Okay, now I agree with Destiny on that, and I think as a representative of the field of psychology, to the degree that you are, that was not a statement you should have made.
Um, why not?
Well, I can get into this a little bit, and I'll stay out of the race topic. I want
But
to
you want to go
know.
into the race topic.
No, I actually don't. I just want to know if you
Well, then why
like
are you
how
staying
familiar
out of
are
it?
you actually? Because you've said you seem like you don't want that to come up at all.
Do you want it to come
So
up?
I don't particularly, except that it has relevance to shitting on erudite, and I would like to do that.
Because she's not the right race.
I don't know what race she is,
She's not Asian.
but is she?
Oh, I said she's not Asian
Oh, yeah, I
and is
agree.
therefore
She's not the
inferior.
right race. I
Yeah,
agree.
uh, there's a
I
lot of
just want to
topics.
know
There's a
if
lot of
how
concepts.
familiar you are with how IQ actually works, because I can give a very brief description of it, and you can reject it or not.
It's not. I don't think the problem is so much that I disagree with the concept. It's more the application of the concept.
Okay,
Same thing with
that's
most
that's
like
fair.
diagnoses. I think I'm not a fan of a lot of the way statistical groupings in psychology, like diagnoses or like IQ tests, are then used or interpreted or weaponized by lay people.
Are you
Uh,
checking your phone?
yeah, somebody just messaged me. I realized my phone wasn't silent. It
All
should
right.
be silenced when I'm streaming.
Yeah. Okay. I understand your perspective on that.
Okay.
I will say that it it is um, highly predictive. It's the single, if you only had one piece of information about a person and you wanted to know, like, is that person's life going to go well or not?
Mm-hmm.
IQ will tell you that better than any other single predictor. Um, so uh, I understand being wary of it being abused as
Well,
a
yeah. I mean, even
statistic,
just the
but
framing of that is already like, um, I don't like it.
why? Do you not like the fact that there are
It's like using tests in school to determine if you're going to do well in school or in life. But the people who make the test are also the people who make your life go well or not.
you're right, there's a kernel of truth there, but like what you're saying is that we live in a society,
Yes.
and it's not that there's this board of people saying, oh, he had a high IQ, so he gets to
No,
do
I
this
know it's
stuff.
not literally a board of people, but if I'm going to be questioning fundamentally how we treat people, particularly how we treat the people that we think the worst of, and constantly questioning like maybe
Wait, wait, who
maybe it's not
are
me that's wrong, maybe it's the way that society reacts to me is wrong, and saying that's true of all people, and saying we need to, instead of labeling and categorizing, dismissing people, we need to remember their humanity and perhaps question everything around the person, even if the person is a tiny speck and there's a whole cloud of of seemingly them not fitting in, we need to question everything. You can see why the concept of IQ, of how good are you at being in our society, is particularly distasteful to me.
Yes, I get that, but
Okay.
you realize that there are practical limits on the amount of, I guess, what's the word, space we can make for people. Like
No, I
if
don't
a
agree with
person
that. I
can't,
don't agree
so
with you.
if a
I don't agree
person
with you.
can't drive,
Yes,
we don't give them a driver's license.
that's
So
true.
sorry, you're not able to do that. So there are things
That's
that you agree that that is how it should be.
yeah. I agree that if
Okay.
you can't drive a car, you shouldn't have a driver's license.
Okay.
Okay.
So my point is
But that's a
in
little that's a
well,
oversimplification
I understand.
of like
I understand. I'll get
okay.
to it.
Okay.
So in the case, I'm not saying that you get this great whatever handyman, and
Yeah.
he's been working for you for years, and then you find out his IQ is like 80, and you're like, fuck, man, I can't believe you didn't tell me this. Get the fuck out of here. I don't ever want to see you again. That's not my point. I'm saying
I know. And
if
that's I hope you don't think that's my point.
well, let me say this, and then you can see if
Well, did you when
I
you
don't know.
said
I don't know if I
that
think that's
did
your
when you
point.
said that, did you think I was going to breathe a sigh of relief and say like, "Oh, well, I thought you would have."
That seemed like a very exaggerated version of what you're arguing.
No, it's not.
Okay, then I misunderstand. Then let me state what I think IQ should be used for,
Okay.
um, and then why it's a valid thing.
Okay.
So if you have a limited amount of information on a person, which
Mhm.
you always do, you never have full. I mean, even when we don't have all the information we need about ourselves or anybody
I
we're close to.
completely agree.
So if you're, you know, often it's when you're hiring or when you're admitting somebody into a school. Um, SATs are IQ tests. Um, Writing prompts, depending on, they're subjectively scored, obviously, but in the vein of IQ, if you give the same paper to 100 different people, and you ask them to rank it against 100 other papers, they're all going to roughly rank it in the same spot. It's an indicator of
Wait.
general comprehension and intelligence. So my
SAT
point
wait,
is
wait. SATs are not actually IQ tests.
SATs are IQ tests
How so?
because I have to. I'm just going to give a short overview of how an IQ test works. So you have a pool of effectively infinite questions about any topics,
Okay.
anything that demands cognitive processing. So they can be math, it can be like pattern recognition and
Okay.
extrapolation. They can be memorizing and recalling facts. You give this test. Sorry, you create a test by sampling 100 questions from this pool. You give it to a bunch of people, and they'll come up in some order of how many questions there
Sure.
are.
Are you saying SAT tests or pull from that pool of questions?
Let me finish real fast. If you resample 100 questions from that infinite pool, meaning you got different questions, but they were they represented the same skew of types of questions, and you give them to the same people, they will come up in the same order. So what that means is that the specific questions that are being asked are not relevant, and in fact, the
Wait,
ability you might
I'm
think
not,
that
I'm not tracking your answer. I need you to explain how SAT tests are literally IQ tests. Are you saying like because IQ is like an actual thing in psychology where you can't just
it's
say
a
your IQ
relative rank order adjusted for age of your how many questions you get right on a
out
standardized
of
set
a
of
specific
questions.
pool of questions
Correct.
that
Correct.
exists.
And
Okay,
those
are do
and
SATs tests pull from that pool?
any pool, that's my point. Any pool of questions that is, that are have objectively correct answers will indicate IQ. Now, there's fluid IQ versus crystallized IQ. Crystallized IQ is more of like accumulated knowledge, like vocabulary.
Okay, so
And
you're
so you
saying that
can,
you can take any 100 question are SAT tests 100 questions?
the 100 is arbitrary. It's just, it's statistically significant. You could give
Okay.
10 questions and get a rough estimate of IQ.
Okay, so you're saying in any IQ, you're saying that any list of questions that has objectively true answers is an IQ test.
Given certain, like, what's the color of a room you've never been in, not that kind of thing, right? But
That you could
questions
figure out
like
the
the
answer.
ones, right? Questions like the ones asked on the SAT, math, language, syllogisms, yes, those are IQ tests. And
Okay.
they're IQ tests because everybody compares their scores to each other, and smart people, like, have you ever been surprised by somebody's
Well,
SAT score?
I don't agree that that means you know their IQ tests.
Well,
I
I'll
don't know.
leave
I
that
don't
to
know how
you.
the
That's
SAT
what I'm.
is formed. Isn't
So my point is
Don't you
that
have to write
IQ,
essays on the SAT also?
that's a portion of it. You have to write prompts. But that was my point about,
What?
you
That's
could
not
give,
objective.
right, but that's my point. IQ is a lot less um uh it's not as sterile as people think it is. You can glean a person's IQ without giving them what you might think you have to give them. That's why I said you could give the paper that a person wrote, and compared to 100 other papers, a team of judges would rank it approximately in the same spot, and that would be
Okay,
an
and so,
approximate
but you
indication of
understand
IQ.
my problem with the whole configuration or lens of IQ is the team of judges. You know that.
Okay, I get that, but
Okay.
my point is, IQ is, so if
Well,
you
there's
take this
another
argument all
problem
the way,
is who is deciding what is important to put on the test,
yep,
and
I
who
understand.
decides how well you did on the test, and those two pieces are the
Yep,
pieces that
get it.
I have a problem with. That makes me not have a lot of or put a lot of stock, and then also the people like you who want to talk about it. That's like 3 points of like heavy
So
swinging
you're taking
movement.
my person as
Yes,
a
this very
knock on IQ.
conversation. Yes, exactly.
What have I done
Well,
that
the
justifies?
lens we're looking through is you, the people who made the test, and the people who scored the test, and the people who took the test. And then the test itself. Like that's like the through line. And you want me to you're saying like, hey, don't worry about me, dude. I know what I'm talking about. I'm not like a
Okay, let
racist
me
or something.
propose
I'm not a
something to
weird
you.
racist. I'm not a crazy race realist
Let me
calling in your
propose
live stream.
something.
I don't know like. And then you're saying the people who made the test, like
Hey, I never
they're
said
good.
I'm not a race realist. I never denied being a race realist,
Okay.
for the
Are you a
record.
race realist?
Probably by your and majority of your audience's definition, yes.
Okay,
But
great.
that's sort of
So
what I want to.
you can see how the way the conversation's brought up, the way the test is scored, the way the test is made. These are all
Yes,
inflection points that have a
of course,
lot
I
of
see all
wiggle
that. That's why
room.
I'm calling in.
Well, I know,
I want
but
to
when you give
confront you about this.
when you're hypothetical, what was the like insane straw man you just made of firing your handyman because you found out his IQ was low after he was doing a good job? Just makes me think that you are insane. This is why I didn't answer your question, by the way,
Okay.
because
Well,
I knew
like I said,
could
I misunderstood what you
I could
were.
feel this. I could feel all of this in your question,
I
and
don't
I
think
was like,
you
I don't
felt
want to. I don't
hair
want.
on my chinny chin chin
Oh, I did.
yet.
I did.
Yet.
I could feel
I
you
hope
through
you
your
do,
question,
but
and I didn't want to engage with you. I will continue this conversation for a little bit longer, but this is why I didn't answer the question.
well, I have to say, I don't think anything we've discussed yet warrants uh, uh,
The
casting
the
aspersions on IQ
do you see
tests.
in your question the framing is that I should care a lot about IQ and know a lot about it.
Yes, I agree.
Okay,
And the
that
reason,
framing that already makes me not want to like engage.
there's a very specific reason I feel that way. You want to hear it? It's it's
Sure.
the single most robust predictor and reliably measurable psychometric statistic that there is. So,
Predictor of
and
what?
this of anything, but specifically life success. There's
Of sexual orientation?
no, what I'm saying is, in the field of psychology, there does not exist a more robust metric of anything than IQ. You cannot
I
measure
understand what you're
anything.
saying, but like, so, well, no, you could. There's other metrics you can come up with that will test for less abstract things than success, which again is like defined by
No,
you.
no. Oh, I didn't say that IQ tests for success. I said IQ is
I
a strong.
understand, but
It's
you could
no,
test.
no, no.
What about a test for hypersexuality that says, do you jack off more than 10 times a day? That probably has a higher correlation for testing for hypersexuality than IQ does for success. So that doesn't. You can't say it's like the best metric for anything because you could easily just come up with a more specific metric that has 100% correlation with whatever label you put on it. You're deciding what success is, and you're deciding what IQ is, and then you're saying like, wow, look, these things are really closely correlated. But like
No,
you're
no, no. You're
those
still
both of those,
conflating
but both of those
predictive
are, but
power
both,
of it with regard to success. I'm
but
not
they're
saying
also both man-made.
I get that, and
Okay,
I'd like to get to those points actually because those are
okay,
interesting.
go ahead.
So what I
A
wanted to ask
day,
you was
yes.
if you constructed an IQ test, whatever that means, but you have to agree, I guess, that it has to involve answering questions or doing tasks um, that indicate cognitive ability in some way, and that can be as up for your interpretation as you like. Um, so would you do that experiment, gather up some poor bastards and test them with a Mr. Girl IQ test?
Um, sure, but the I'm not saying it would be immoral for me to do that, but I would
I'm
not
saying,
present.
would you do it? Not more, would it be immoral? Like, would you think that's an interesting thing to try,
It would
or
be
would you not
interesting as
want
a
to do it?
project to a research project to reveal something about me, about
Okay, okay,
how I think. What do I think is success? What do I think people should be using their brains for? I think
okay.
that
I
the
got
IQ
you.
test designed by me would probably be super different from the IQ test design or the SAT. I think people would flunk my test but get a 1600 on the SAT, and it would tell you something about me and my values.
Okay, my um, hypothesis is that there would not be that big of a difference between the success on the SAT and the success on the Mr. Girl IQ test. So that's where I'll leave that. You can doubt that, but I think it would be
I do doubt
interesting
it.
to try it. I want to point out though that um, you start to get down to like the bedrock of what we value as humans if you call into question things like um, can you do math, for instance?
No,
You don't
no,
think so? You don't think that the ability to do math is at the bedrock of
no,
the last couple thousand years of civilization?
no. What I value,
Okay.
no, I do not. I do not devalue other humans who can't do math.
I'm not saying you devalue other humans.
Even the idea that like the civilization we've built is good or a good idea or that we're going in a good direction, I don't subscribe to it. It might be true or it
But I
might
know
not
you're
be true.
you're not a complete moral relativist or a moral uh,
It's not that.
drifting
It's that I don't
in
believe
the
in an
ocean.
object. I am a moral relativist.
I don't believe you because you clearly have.
My own set of morals that is clearly very different from yours, which is why I didn't want to answer your fucking question because
No, I don't think it is.
I think it is immoral to categorize people by race and by IQ and use this as a justification for labeling those people as inferior or worthless. I believe that you are
I have
not
not
doing
done
I believe that you
anything.
did not reach these conclusions through the
Okay.
intellectual pathways that you are suggesting. I believe that this is a retroactive frame that is applied after you've already
I know you
dehumanized
believe
people.
that, but first of
Okay,
all, those are not
great.
my conclusions, and I think that having that, having predetermined that, anytime anybody brings up a discussion about IQ and anything
You said you're a race realist, so you know whatever you said by my definition, you're a race realist. So you know that I think that your
Right. I
entire
think you have
framework,
an
your
unreasonable definition for some of these things.
you said you meet my definition. So whether it's reasonable or not, you already know that I think that the frame with which you look at your fellow man is inherently immoral and dehumanizing.
Well, I suppose, but my,
Okay.
if I had enough time, I would try to convince you that there are um, ways you can hold the components that I possess of what you deem to be race realism
Yeah.
that does not also necessitate dehumanizing people. I think you
No,
have not.
it's already coded into your language when you say the last few thousand years of human civilization or progress. It already just sounds racist. That's all I hear. When you say something like that, I just hear racism.
All right, but I don't know what the alternative. Like, can you not discuss? Um, does
I
that
don't
mean
know.
that any?
I've made like I've made a lot of content, like hundreds of hours of content now. I've never once talked about the progress of human civilization.
I
So yeah,
disagree
there
with
are
that strongly.
alternative.
You
What?
are you are constantly trying to. Um,
I'm saying as a actual concept, I never said the sentence or phrase progress of human civilization
well,
because
maybe you've been trying to avoid.
I know that my progress is not the same as your progress. So I just don't talk about progress. That's why when somebody calls in and says, "You didn't have a productive conversation," I say, "What do you mean by productive?" Because your productive is different from my productive. I think it gets into a very dangerous and like almost inherently bigoted, dehumanizing territory when you are objectively defining progress, productive, intelligent, worth, worthless,
I'm
stupid,
defining them
smart.
objectively. Okay, so I haven't used any of those words, and I'm defining progress objectively insofar as human beings agree on morality for the most part about a lot of things and agree on what we want in society. Um, and I think you've avoided perhaps using that phrase and other phrases. I think you've been dancing around things maybe too carefully to not
No, I
be
just don't
categorized
fucking
as
think the
a.
same way. I'm literally just not a race realist. I feel like race realists always want to reveal to you that you're secretly a race realist, but I'm not.
um okay. Oh,
What?
all right, a couple other quick things.
Okay.
I agree with you about compliments,
Okay.
except I think it's
Nice.
I think my personal take is I agree it's like self masturbatory on the part of the person giving them. But I just don't believe them. Like, in fact, they're often, I think they're given out by people who are trying to uh, make you feel better about something you might actually be deficient in. But I don't know if you want to use the word deficient.
Well, maybe
So
if you did believe them and you had a higher opinion of yourself, you wouldn't need to subscribe to a racist ideology to justify your own place in the world.
maybe I'll
Maybe.
consider that. And then I
Okay.
might change my view on compliments. Um,
Well, that's not what I wanted, but okay.
I wanted to mention something real fast. You were talking about, you know, Dolly and all that stuff. So you spent a lot of time on OkCupid and Tinder,
Oh yeah,
and you know that
the
the
algorithm.
well, not even the algorithm, but it all comes down to the first message, which is often less than like 10 words, right?
Yeah.
So it occurred to me like 10 years ago, before any of these text generations were what they are. Um, your entire destiny, perhaps, with the person you're messaging at least, is determined by a pretty small space of English language,
Mm-hmm.
and that it would be pretty easy to train a bot, especially now,
To write the
to
best message.
Yeah, and given that our mode of interfacing with other humans is being constantly more and more compressed down into those sorts of interactions, uh, we're the technology is beyond where it needs to be to get into an AI dystopia. We just haven't utilized
Totally.
any of
Yeah.
it yet.
But
Um,
for a unique, individual, special snowflake like you, with your own identity, independent from all racial groups and testing scores, the person who responds to the message that you might end up um, having the relationship with that you want the most may not respond to the AI's message that gets the most responses.
I I know that. Believe
Well,
me.
so you don't want to dehumanize yourself. You don't want to take yourself out of the equation.
Oh no! When I was looking for sex, I absolutely wanted to dehumanize myself. Everything about the whole thing was dehumanizing,
Okay.
which is the only reason you'd engage with that sort of text. Um, I've
I don't
taken up
know.
enough time.
Yeah. Well, thank you
So
for
I just want to
calling.
say one last thing. I really like the Fiend documentary, and the thing um, your friend Joe, right? He's got very good posture, and I think you don't have to comment on the art, but I think you were highlighting his his body a lot there, and it was good.
Well, thanks.
Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Good night. The Clark Hunt credit scores are also immoral. I feel dehumanized by TransUnion not even being ironic this time. Yeah, I think they are as well. I mean, yeah, that's kind of my always my definition of racism is taking statistical trends about groups of people and then applying them to individuals, and you're willing to do that